I have two stories. Which one? First one or second one?
Second one.
Second one. Okay. I was at a Colorado Dance Festival in 1992, and it was my. It was actually I was 19. I just finished school. It was my first trip to the U.S. And it was I think at that time it was the biggest tap festival around, and my first trip to the U.S. and I was so excited to go. I think it was for 3 weeks, and everybody was there. Like everybody, like a lot of the old timers. Charlie Atkins was there, Honey Coles, Brenda Buffalino. I think Jimmy Clyde came. A lot of other, everybody was there. Diane Walker. So I just had the best time, And Charlie Atkins, I took class with Charlie Atkins, and he was auditioning for a group of young dancers. I think Bakari was in it back then. Bakari was there too. He was like 15 or so, and I improvised on the audition. I improvised over Billy Spons, and it didn't really went the way I wanted. It wasn't really good. And later I was outside smoking, and Charlie Atkins came outside, and he was like, "Man, Thomas, that was really bad." And it was so honest and so, straight in my face. I loved it, But he said, "You know what? I know you can do better. You get like in a couple of days, you just do it again. We have another audition. Because I want you in my group. But that was so bad, I can do it. You have to do it again. I know you can do it." And so I did it the next, I think on a Saturday or something. And that was the day Honey Coles came for the festival, and he didn't dance anymore. I think he had a stroke before. He was just watching, and so he watched while I danced again to Billy Spons. Everybody liked it. Charlie was happy. He said I could be in the group. Everything was great. And like an hour later, so I passed by Honey's chair, and he stopped me. He stood up, and he said, "Man, you have great feet." That was the biggest thing ever. I just went upstairs. We had a few drinks in our room, and I was just like, had a big screwdriver and was happy for the night.
Yeah. Awesome. How did you get started in tap dance? What brought you to the dance?
I just started when I was 14 or 15, and I don't know. I just wanted to do it. I saw the movies, like in German television, they showed old movies, Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, that kind of stuff. So I took my first tap class in a small studio where I grew up in the south of Germany, and I just loved it from the first class. Like I knew it's for me. I fell in love with it right away. Soon after I started tap dancing, she came to Stuttgart where I grew up, and she taught a workshop, and we just hooked up. And I was a young kid. I was 15 or 16, and she liked me, and I liked her, and we talked, and she was so supportive, and she really encouraged me in approaching the dance and going for it.
You met her in Germany?
I met her in Germany, yeah. And years later, I think it was like 2 or 3 years later, a couple of workshops later, she was in Stuttgart again, and I drove her to her hotel or something, and she said to me, "You should come to New York. You should dance in the American Tap Dance Orchestra," which she just founded. And I was like a little angry at first, because I was like, that's great, but like don't say things you don't mean, because it's like, are you serious? And then I don't know, a year later or so, I had a phone call on my machine. I came home, and it was Barbara Duffy. You probably know her, a good friend of mine. She was like, "Thomas, Brenda wants to know if you're up for a gig with the orchestra, and Gregory Hines will be in it." in Florida. It's like, yeah, sure.
Were you afraid? Were you nervous? What?
I was nervous as shit. Yeah.
Do you remember the first rehearsal?
I don't remember the first rehearsal, but I remember Brenda screaming at me several times. Oh yeah, I was scared. I mean, everybody was, I think, at some point. It's just fears. It's more, I can't really recall, I mean, I can recall a few, performances, but it was just being part of that group and rehearsing and experiencing how Brenda's approach to choreography. I just think she's my favorite tap dancer, I must say, in terms of she's one of the few real artists, and I like that, I was always could connect to that.
How did you make your transition into artistry, into being a solo artist?
No, I was just totally naive about it. I just came home. I knew a friend, a drummer, that I've been with a local group in my hometown, tap dance group. They supported me. They were much older than me, and I was part of it. So I knew a few musicians. I was a very good friend with a drummer, and I said, let's form a group. I'm ready. I'm just totally inspired coming back from New York. So he found a pianist and a bass player. We sat together. We created a show, and I had no idea about booking, doing contracts or anything like that. I just started to do a video, which was way harder back then than nowadays, because and a press kit, just printed it out in a coffee shop, and I just went to the local theaters. I literally knocked on the door, I rang the bell and said, hey, here I am, here's my press kit.
Yeah.
They were like angry at me, like, you can't just swing by.
There are channels, sorry.
You send this stuff, it's like, well, here it is, But I got gigs, I was very lucky because when I started this, it was very successful in the beginning, and I think that helped me to approach my career, and they're still lasting in a way, that effort. And it was easy because I was naive about it. I wasn't scared. I was just like, well, let's hand it out to people and see what happens. I think the biggest joy I get if I have a production, a big theater production, and just people come and watch. People that are maybe not even related to tap dance. But they, and most of them are not, they just come because it's I don't know, they're interested in that concept of that show, and then they enjoy it. And I don't have to prove other tap dancers to other tap dancers, or, and that helps me, because I always like the tap scene, but there's also a lot of competition. There's a certain standard. And sometimes you just don't want to play along. You want to do your own things. And it took me a while to realize that as an artist, I think you're lonely. And it's almost like you have to seek it. Like look for it. You have to find it. Your place. I think a lot of, like, if you talk about composers or painters or photographers, other artists, I don't think you want to live up to other people's standards or dogma or whatever. You just try to find your own voice, and then you just try to stick to it.
And he won't find it in the friendly bartender. No. The only true companion he will find in his drink. And in the jazz.